In a decisive move to rescue Nigeria's ailing power sector, the Senate has advanced the Electricity Act Amendment Bill 2025. The bill, which scaled second reading during plenary, seeks to address regulatory gaps, curb infrastructure vandalism with stifle penalties, and improve electricity generation and distribution nationwide. This and many more will be coming your way tonight. Welcome to the program, NAS Unplugged. Thank you for joining us. I am Ada Oka. Now we begin from the upper chamber, where the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has called for stronger ties between Nigeria and Morocco to boost trade, investment and energy cooperation. He made the call while receiving the Moroccan ambassador, Moha Kwali Tagma, at the National Assembly. Senator Godswill Akpabio praised Morocco's $1.5 billion investment in Nigeria's fertilizer industry and expressed optimism about the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline projects. In response, the Moroccan envoy invited Nigerian lawmakers to visit Morocco to further strengthen bilateral relations.
So we hope to develop this relationship. As you know, Morocco has many projects in the economic sector. In Nigeria, we developed a good cooperation in terms of fertilizer, for example. In terms of we have the projects of gas pipeline between Nigeria and Morocco. That it's the biggest project in Africa and one of the biggest projects in the world. So it will permit also to develop energy in all the West African countries between Nigeria and Morocco, then also to export gas to Europe. We have also cultural cooperation between our two countries, and in the economic sector also, we have this project to create business council between Nigeria and Morocco, and of course, Chamber of Commerce. So we consider, of course, Nigeria as our biggest partner in Africa, and we hope, of course, to go ahead with, of course, the Senate, the Assembly, all the business sector of Nigeria, and I think that we have all the facilities now. We have their daily flight from Lagos to Casablanca. We have also inaugurated another flight, direct flight from Abuja to Casablanca. It will be a daily flight from the next October, and I think that I have the experience because I see that there is a lot of Nigerians who visit Morocco. We receive many requests for the visa, and we're very happy to see, for example, that Marrakesh, Tanger, Casablanca are every day chosen by Nigerians for tourism and for business. So thank you, Excellency Mr. President, to receive us today. And I hope that we will have also the occasion to receive you in Morocco. We received you in April, but we want also to organize a visit to Morocco to have the opportunity, of course, to discover Morocco and to discuss with our government, with the counterpart, and of course to be received by His Majesty the King, to develop more and more our relationship. So thank you very much for this honor that you gave us today, and sure that we appreciate a lot this honor, and we are very happy to be here between our brothers. Of course, many of this assembly are friends, brothers. This is the Senator Kano, plus also the Senator of Delta.
As in-laws.
I have also, I've been honored to last 2 years ago to visit Akwa Ibom. So I was there, yes, of course. 2 times I was there in Akwa Ibom, and we have a very, very big project in Akwa Ibom, as you know. The OCP, the most important company in the world of fertilizer, has a project to build plantation in Akwa Ibom. The investment is about $1.5 billion, and it is now in the last steps, and we hope to start to build it maybe next. Thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you.
So, yes, Your Excellency, the Ambassador, Morocco is a name that is recurring on a daily basis in Nigeria. Morocco is a symbol of football. Morocco is a new destination for investment. Morocco is becoming a great partner to Nigeria in the economic sphere. And Morocco is a place that all Nigerians want to do business with. We have a lot to learn from Morocco. Not just the beautiful landscaping, not just the infrastructure, but also the security of the state of Morocco. Your kingdom is very beautiful. You have done a wonderful job. So on behalf of the Nigerian Senate, we want you to extend our prayers and heartfelt appreciation to His Majesty, King Mohammed VI. May God assist him for the kind of leadership that he has provided, which has given Africa a pride of place in the Committee of Nations. And we are very proud of Morocco. So I was recently in Morocco with a team of senators, and I was received by your councillors, the councillors forum of the Republic of Morocco, and we also interacted with the Foreign Affairs Minister. He received us in his office, and he made us to understand that he was here in Nigeria, and he worshipped at the mosque in the villa with the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he looked forward to coming again to Nigeria. And then, of course, they also look forward to our President visiting Morocco to concretize and continue to extend the bond of friendship, which was established with the last visit of the Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, this year. So we, in the Parliament here, we have signed an agreement to form the Nigeria-Moroccan Friendship Group. And it's a group that will soon receive most of the parliamentarians from Morocco. And just to underscore the fact that we are very deeply interested in strengthening the bond that exists between Nigeria and Morocco. And I'm happy to note that whilst we are hoping to invest in Morocco and also leading with Moroccan investors to come to Nigeria, that already that investment and that relationship in the commercial sense had already started. Imagine in my state, you have already put in about $1.5 billion in the fertilizer industry. I think this is something to be applauded, and it's very good news. It's very good news to our country. It will create employment opportunities. It will be mutually beneficial to both nations. And I do know that we will give you other areas when we are together, which we want you to bring a delegation of investors from Morocco to come and visit. We are very determined to strengthen the oil and gas ties between Nigeria and Morocco. The AKK project, the pipeline, just yesterday, the new GCO of NNPC Nigeria announced that the difficulty they had was crossing the river Niger, and he was happy to announce that that pipeline has crossed the river Niger. I've crossed the river and I'm heading towards Morocco. So I was very excited because that was one of the things I was confronted with, whether the project was not moving. But apparently, whatever hitches, whatever difficulties they had now been surmounted, and that project is on course. So we hope to export our rich oil gas reserves, particularly through the pipeline and through cooperation with Morocco and all that. I know at every stage that we go to, we try to create an LNG, mini LNG project out of it, so that the gas can also provide opportunities for the local people to benefit from. So the relationship will be almost, it will go for decades. So Nigeria and Morocco, the relationship has come to stay. But let me also use this opportunity to praise you. I think I should inform you that even before we started the commercial relationship with Morocco, even before we started the fertilizer relationship with Morocco and other goods, that the Nigerian Senate is very proud to host senators who had long established consanguinity relationship with Morocco. Many of our senators, Senator Natasha, Deputy Senate President, his children, members of his family, are already married to Moroccans. And many Moroccans are also, I thank you, Senator Shu, because people don't know that that is also another area that binds a country together. You know, so that relationship is very important. And so we hope and do look forward to a lot of Moroccans also marrying from Nigeria. We want to establish, we want to be a family. Nigeria and Morocco should be a family. And for me, I would re-invite you to visit Akwa Ibom. Say, I come from there. So to hear that you've been there twice without me is not fair. next time you are going, you must invite me so that I can take you down and host you properly also in my country home, because I received the delegation of the Senate will receive such fantastic hosting from the head of your parliament to the former first minister. In fact, for the few days we were in Morocco, I gained 11 pounds. I was so well fed that I did not want to leave. Yes, I was so well fed. I'm sorry to report this to you. I ate on your behalf. so I will. It's such a beautiful country. And Nigerians have taken it as their second home. And I think the most beautiful thing about it is that this is in Africa. You have shown that Africa can work. And that's why I said Morocco and the Moroccan administration needs to be emulated by other African countries. In the area of security, you've done fantastically well. In the area of manufacturing, Morocco manufactures about 1 million cars in a year. 1 million cars in a year, and exports them to Europe and other countries. Did you know that? But that's what I'm telling you. So I took my time to go around, and I was surprised. So in terms of industrialization, they've gone very far. Of course, the only thing we knew about Morocco was football. We always hold our breath and beg them not to beat Nigerian team. Each time we beat in either AFCON or World Cup. But outside that, they have gone very far in the area of power, and in the area of infrastructure, and in the area of manufacturing. So this relationship will be mutually beneficial, and Nigeria also will learn a lot from Morocco. So you are welcome to the 10th Senate. You are welcome to your home. You are welcome to your, how do I call it, your second home, more or less, and a place that is very determined to forge a very, very friendly relationship with Morocco. So thank you for this honor of coming to see us, and please expect us in your office anytime from now. May Almighty Allah take you back safely.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has passed the Electricity Act Amendment Bill 2025 through second reading to address Nigeria's persistent power sector challenges. Sponsored by Senator Naya Abaribe, the amendment seeks to fix regulatory gaps in the 2023 Acts, reduce legal disputes, and introduce tougher penalties for power infrastructure vandals. Lawmakers describe the bill as timely and crucial for improving electricity generation and distribution nationwide. Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio praised the Committee on Power, noting that the amendment is key to Nigeria's industrial growth. The bill has now been referred to the Committee on Power to report back in 6 weeks.
The primary objective of this bill is to address the critical issues that have emerged in the implementation of the Electricity Act, EA, in 2023. Specifically, the bill seeks to include provisions that will, 1, enhance policy and regulatory coordination between national and subnational governments to avoid legal disputes and inconsistencies. You will recall, Mr. President, that the Electricity Act 2023 now gives states, which are subnationals, the right to set up, distribute, transmit, and generate electricity. And we are already seeing within the Act several areas of disputes between states and the federal government. And these are what we want to cure. For example, in the Electricity Act, we have a provision, actually, which was unfortunately passed by us, that says that laws that are made by states actually supersede the Constitution. Because it says there that any law passed by a state with regard to electricity cannot be overruled or whatever, which, of course, the Constitution is very clear. Any federal legislation that conflicts with the state legislation, the federal legislation must take precedence. So we want to cure such anomalies and disputes within the Electricity Act. 2, strengthen sectoral financing in the face of crippling sector debt crisis. As of today, the federal government is owing close to 4-point-something trillion. And this type of debts can only be cured if the Act is amended so that the balance of responsibilities rests equally on the different sectors of our economy. 3, to criminalize critical electricity infrastructure vandalism. You will recall, Mr. President, that a short while, there was a time that the Eastern Line, taking power all the way to the north, was criminalized all the way, was brought down. And the north didn't have power for a very long time. Unfortunately, in our laws, there are very, very minimal penalties for such great vandalism, so that national resources are lost, and we find it very difficult. If you take them to court, they can only do to the extent that those penalties are there. 4, to foster industrial relations in the sector by balancing the labor rights in the context of essential services. Because what we are seeing today is that power ought to be an essential service. So nobody should come and say, I'm going on strike, and then if you are doing a surgery or something and then the power goes, then people are their lives are put in danger, and in so many other areas. 5, clarify the ongoing transitional arrangements in the transfer of intrastate electricity matters from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to the state governments, especially in matters having bearing on the operation of the national grid system. The generation of electricity was privatized. The distribution of electricity was also privatized. But the transmission, which takes power from all the GENCOs passing states to every other state, was not. And so, by giving states the power to generate, transmit, we now have issues of who determines what, who takes tariffs within those areas. And we want to make sure that the coordination is properly done now to prevent future problems. And then clarify the framework for the Power Consumer Assistance Fund. The Electricity Act actually provides a Power Consumer Assistance Fund. It has not been operationalized. And so the federal government is still made to pay for everything that comes in and the bills that the GENCOs and the DISCOs give. Whereas the essence of that fund is so that the fund will be built up, so that if there is the necessity for any payments to be done, it will be done through that fund, and the federal government will no longer have that responsibility. And then to redefine and provide for the sector-wide framework for community engagement. Today, most of the places where the power plants are located, even where the distribution stations are located, communities living around there insist that they will not pay for power, and therefore that they should be taken care of. And there is no law that takes care of that type of engagement. And so we feel that this is the best time for us to address those issues, so that community youths, like they did in Trans-Amade a short while ago, will not go and shut down a power station just because they feel that their youths are not being employed. Because at that time, I had to go personally, and I asked the leader of the youth, how many of you are power engineers? Not one. So how will you employ you when you're not a power engineer? But there must be a way that we must create the enabling act so that we can, take care of this type of, and then to remove inherent ambiguities in a few provisions to allow for clarity, elegance, and all that, and then to fortify the existing institutional framework.
I will term it is revolutionary in nature, akin to the Petroleum Industry Act that this parliament amended with a view to revolutionizing the industry. And this amendment equally seeks to do that. One, against the backdrop of the fact that as a result of the amendment of the Constitution, bringing power from exclusive legislative list to the concurrent legislative list, states can now also legislate on matters concerning electricity. And this has brought conflict between laws that were enacted at the state level and laws that are originated at the national level. So essentially what this bill seeks to do is to also smoothen or bring it in conformity with the Constitution, the fact that laws made by the National Assembly are superior to laws that are made by the State Houses of Assembly. For example, as rightly alluded to in the course of his argument, there is a provision in the Act that laws that are made by the State House of Assembly are superior to the laws that are made by the National Assembly. This one is ultra vires the Constitution. So this bill essentially seeks to achieve that. And I'm also more interested with the fact that it also tends to criminalize vandalization of power infrastructure. Because in my own region of the country, there is avalanche of vandalization of power infrastructure across the nooks and crannies of the Northeast, to the extent that there was a time my state was in blackout for about 6 months as a result of vandalization. So what this bill seeks to do is to give adequate punishment to those vandals that are engaged in vandalism of electricity infrastructure, so that it will serve as a deterrent to will-be offenders. So on this note, I support the second reading of this bill, and I urge my colleagues to support it and pass it with speed of light. Thank you.
President, let me start by commending the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who about 2 weeks ago extended his economic reform to the power sector by signing into law the power for the states to generate their own electricity. It is on that premise that I will go by extending my own support for the mover of this bill, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan. Mr. President, looking at his submission, the first objective of this bill, enhance policy and regulatory coordination between the national and the subnational government to avoid legal disputes and inconsistency. Mr. President, I quite agree with him, because now that we now have in place that bill, that act empowering the states to generate their own electricity, definitely there can be some issues which we believe maybe as a result of this amendment that can be corrected. But Mr. President, looking at what we currently have as structure in the electricity sector, you will quite agree with me that over the years, so many people have taken advantage of this particular sector and the federal government being the sole generation and distribution of power in Nigeria. As we speak, Mr. President, the indebtedness of the federal government to these contractors, so-called the GENCOs and the DISCOs, is running into billions and millions of dollars. And that is why any attempt by the government to remove subsidy from this sector is always met with a huge cry by the general populace. And this has been as a result of the inconsistency we have experienced in this particular sector. Mr. President, there is a particular agency of the government, they call it MBEDS. MBEDS is the face of the government between the DISCOs and the GENCOs. Every budgetary year is billions of naira that are being voted by MBED. And that money is usually not enough to pay the DISCOs and the GENCOs. I've listened to my colleague talking about vandalization. Mr. President, you'll be shocked that this same contractor that installed will go back there, vandalize and take it away. Year in, year out, the same job. The same job. And I strongly believe if this amendment tends to take care of all these issues that we have, it will go a long way in resolving this particular critical sector once and for all. You and I agree with me that if we can solve the crisis we have in the power sector, we will have succeeded in solving more than 50% of the challenges of this country. And I want to commend the current administration, who is doing so much at least fairly, all of us can at least testify to the fact that we have power. Sometimes I stayed in my house for 3 days, I won't on my generator. Yes, they say there is band A, band B, band C. Whichever band it is, at least fairly, we're enjoying power. If this will further crystallize and solidify the sector, I think I'm in total support of the bill. What is my observation? I noticed that in the body of the bill, in the body of his submission, under the structure of the bill, he mentioned that the clause section 2 will amend the constitutional dispute and also refer to so many clauses. My fear is that this is a private sponsor bill and not from the executive. I hope that all these clauses that we have mentioned as part of his submission will work in tandem with the expectation of the executive so that we can have a holistic amendment that will solve and resolve the issue in the power sector once and for all. Mr. President, I so submit.
In another development, the Nigerian Senate has tasked its joint committee to launch a comprehensive investigation into Ponzi schemes operating in the country. This includes holding a public hearing to sensitize Nigerians on the risk of fraudulent schemes. The move followed a debate led by Senator Abiru Adetokunbo, referencing the recent crypto bullion exchange incident. Other lawmakers also called for tighter regulations to protect citizens from financial scams. Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio described Ponzi schemes as damaging to both Nigerians and the economy, stressing the need for urgent action. The committees are expected to report back in 4 weeks.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion on investigative hearing into the operations of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, with particular reference to the recent crypto bullion exchange (CBEX) incident. This motion is co-sponsored by my good self and Senator Osita Izunazo. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, aware that the economic well-being and financial security of Nigerian citizens are essential pillars of national stability and growth, and that it is the duty of government to protect the populace from exploitative, predatory, and fraudulent financial practices and schemes that threaten their livelihoods. Deeply concerned about the rapid proliferation and alarming rise of unregulated and fraudulent investment schemes, commonly known as Ponzi or pyramid schemes, such as MMM Nigeria in 2016, MBA Forex in 2020, to mention a few, which have repeatedly defrauded millions of Nigerians, causing severe financial hardship and, in some cases, driving victims to depression, family breakdowns, and even suicide. Note in particular the recent case of crypto bullion exchange (CBEX), a digital investment platform which lured millions of Nigerians with the promise of outrageous returns before suddenly collapsing and resulting in investors losing over 1.3 trillion and making it one of the most devastating financial scams in the country's history. Further notes that the CBEX incident is not an isolated case, but part of an existing and growing pattern of unregulated and fraudulent schemes that leverages technology, social media to deceive the public, and often using tactics such as referral commissions, celebrity endorsements, and fake testimonials to build credibility and drive recruitment. I'm shocked that despite the scale of operations and visibility of CBEX, it operated for an extended period without facing sanctions by either the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, the CBN, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and also EFCC. Alarmed that the lack of coordinated oversight, real-time monitoring, and strict enforcement by relevant agencies has created an enabling environment for such schemes to flourish, eroding public trust in legitimate financial institutions and posing a systemic risk to the economy. Recognizes that the growing sophistication of such fraudulent platforms, combined with low levels of financial literacy and a lack of access to formal investment opportunities, makes the Nigerian population increasingly vulnerable to such schemes. Conscious that Section 8, Sub 1A and B of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, empowers the National Assembly to conduct investigations into any matter, and further conscious that these constitutional powers empower the Senate to investigate the failure of regulatory agencies to monitor and prevent the CBEX fraud, as well as to propose necessary legislative and administrative reforms to forestall future occurrences, and alarmed at the increasing sophistication of Ponzi scheme operators and the devastating consequences of their actions, and the need for urgent public education to prevent further exploitation and of unsuspecting citizens. Mindful of the urgent need to protect Nigerian citizens, especially vulnerable groups, from financial predators, by investigating the lapses that allowed CBEX and similar platforms to thrive unchecked, and to recommend robust mechanisms for monitoring, prevention, and prosecution. And resolved to mandate the Joint Senate Committee on Capital Market and Institutions, Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions, Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, and ICT and Cybercrime to conduct a comprehensive investigative hearing, including public hearing on the operations of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, and report back in 4 weeks. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, I so move. Thank you, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues.
But here are we today discussing about a motion which have serious adverse effects on the people of Nigeria. Mr. President, yes, this is not the first time that issues like this is happening. And I know that there was an attempt by the last administration, while amending the Finance Act in 2022, to ensure that all online transactions, that they pay some taxes on the online transaction. We made this several attempts, and that was when Nigeria had issues with Facebook, with other online businesses, just in an attempt to ensure that we can regulate their activities as far as Nigeria is concerned. Mr. President, Ponzi, or whatever this is called, is just one out of the numerous online payments that we have. Many of our Gen Z of this world no longer go to the banks. They patronize all these online payment system. A lot of them. Ponzi is just one out of the numerous online payments, and hiding under the language, the fintech, that you go through the fintech, that you play through the fintech, and you make this a pause. They call it pause. You just drop money there, the following money, you get the money somewhere else. And they have taken advantage of us as a nation because the regulation is not there. Because I wondered how this monumental fraud will happen to Nigeria when we have a regulator, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in place. And that was why I'm supporting this investigative hearing. Because we are only going to be looking at Ponzi, but we have so many other online payment platforms that is not mentioned. So we want to ask Central Bank, what are the regulations that you have put in place to protect Nigerians against all these kind of transactions? No other countries of the world you can embark on this kind of item of transaction without necessary regulation in place. We need to find out from the Central Bank of Nigeria. We need to. Aside punishing or going after Ponzi, which is one out of the numerous, you can testify that this is not the first or second or third time. And we can't continue in this trend. So whatever is embedded or covered under this body of this motion is just a way to draw the attention of this Nigerian Senate that Nigeria can no longer continue to be defrauded by all these online payment, online platforms. So, Mr. President, I'm in total support of this motion, that we carry out this investigative hearing so that we can address this matter once and for all. And also, the cyber security, all this IT, our information technology. We need to find out, what are they doing? What are they doing? Are we saying Nigeria is that porous at all levels? To the extent that Nigeria has lost millions and billions in naira, in dollars. Trillions. So, Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, this is one motion we should all support. And we should all be interested in investigative hearing. We need to all be there to let's speak to the truth and address these issues once and for all. Mr. President, this will also submit.
Mr. President, I do not think we have commended the sponsor of this motion enough. This is an extraordinary motion that deals with an extraordinary situation that demands an extraordinary reaction. Mr. President, permit me to quote Chapter 2 of our Constitution, especially Section 13. And by the leave of the President of the Senate, may I read, "It shall be the duty and responsibility of all organs of government, of all authorities and persons exercising legislative, executive, or judicial powers to conform to, observe, and apply the provision of this Constitution." And the Constitution goes further in Section 14(3) of B. "The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government." Mr. President, the motion has elucidated that even though the Act of the National Assembly has given sweeping powers to the Security and Exchange Commissions, to the Central Bank of Nigeria, to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence, and to the Economic and Financial Crimes, yet these things just take place in Nigeria as if these laws are not in place. These laws are in place, but over the years, this Ponzi scheme has not happened just this year. It has been happening for over 20 years, even under our democratic experiment. And for me, personally, for a motion of this nature to be brought to the floor of the Senate, I think the mover and both the Senate for placing it for debate must be commended. Even if outside people will not commend us, we must commend ourselves, because what this motion shows is that the people are in our minds. Billions of naira has been spent. Millions of dollars have been spent on this Ponzi scheme, and yet going down the drain. And you ask questions, what is happening? Who are responsible for these Ponzi schemes? Why are they doing this Ponzi scheme, and yet no arrest, no sanction? So all these things boils down to us as a people. However, the mover of the nation has said, conscious that Section 80, Mr. President, has given the National Assembly the powers to make laws, the conduct of affairs of any person, the catchwords are any person, any authority, any ministry or government department charged or intended to be charged with the duty of or responsibility for executing or
administrating laws enacted by the National Assembly. So Section 80 of the Constitution has given us these powers. But like I said, that's why I keep on commending the Senator. These powers are in place. But for a very long time, we have not been able to utilize these powers, particularly as it affects this Ponzi scheme. Rural dwellers, our people, who make ends meet in a very difficult manner, immediately they see this Ponzi scheme, they get involved. My constituents, over the years, sir, you give them 10,000, 20,000, instead of actually investing. But when they see a Ponzi scheme that promises them 10,000 plus 10,000 after 1 week, they take this money and place it there. You give them 100,000. It is this money, quick money, that has been the central minds of an average Nigerian. And the law is in place. And therefore, once this Senate is able to nip this on the bud, call these security agencies to questions, direct them, and making sure that if this thing continues to happen, then the parliament has its own options. And I think this particular motion is commendable and is apt, is timely. And I'm sure the Senate President, from his own vintage of position, should be able to commend the movers, the sponsors of these bills, and of course, some of us senators who have sat to discuss this. And we were looking forward to discussing this since last week. And time was running out, and we advised Baba Adini, the Abiru, Senator Abiru, to drop it onto a much better time. I do not think, in my opinion, finally, sir, that this is a matter that we must limit discussion on. It is a very fundamental matter that concerns Nigerians all across. So it is a matter that is very, very important, and we must commend ourselves for listening to it and debating it. Thank you.
In reality, we are satisfied that there is nobody opposed to this motion. Nobody. I just want to say that from my personal experience, just like Senator Alero's experience, before the collapse of the financial system in 1991, maybe some of our senators were not born then, there was the one they used to call Omana in Port Harcourt. And when eventually the security agencies woke up, if you carry 50,000 to them, in 1 week they will give you another 50,000. And then they will tell you, they will encourage you to put it back. So you now have 100,000, and they will give you a paper. In another week, you go back, you now have 200,000. They will tell you to put it back. But if you insist, they will collect from A and give to B, and collect from B and give to C, and then money will now return. And then they will give you additional interest. So eventually when the security services swapped on them, they found out that they didn't even know how to store the money. Most of the notes were eaten by rats because they just hired warehouses and packed the money. And they were spending on themselves, buying properties. When you come to look for your money, they go to the warehouse and draw Ghana must go. And sometimes half of the money would have decayed and all that. It was such a terrible nightmare. And many Nigerians committed suicide when they lost their monies. So the collapse of that financial system should have taught us a lesson. But no. In this time now, we are still seeing students carrying their pocket monies, collecting monies from their parents for medicals, and going to dump in all sorts of Ponzi schemes. And then you see, at a go, a group will make away with 1.8 trillion from the country, and no action seems to be taken. We would like to see them brought to book. And we need to, like Senator Alero said, we need to educate our constituents. So part of my recommendation with this beautiful motion will be that we should also organize a major public outing, even if we have to do it in different zones of the country, to enable us educate our populace and educate our constituents so that we can avoid unnecessary suicide and avoid also unnecessary scamming of the Nigerian citizens, whilst at the same time alerting the security agencies and the Central Bank of Nigeria to their responsibilities to protect the welfare and the lives and security of all our citizens, as enshrined in Section 14, subsection B of the Nigerian Constitution. So I want to thank all of you for your contributions and thank Baba Adini and his colleague for bringing this forward to the fore. And like I said, this is extremely important. It concerns all. If it does not concern you, it will concern your relation. So if you are not affected, you will be infected. Honestly, it concerns the entirety of the country, and particularly those who are not very literate. Distinguished colleagues, we can look at the prayers. The only prayer we have is to mandate the joint committees on capital markets, banking, insurance, and security and other financial institutions, anti-corruption and financial crimes, ICT and cyber security, to conduct a comprehensive investigative hearing, including public hearings. Like I said, you don't have to do it in one location, on the operations of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, educating the Nigerian public, educating the investing public, and then to report back to this Senate in 4 weeks. Those in support of the prayer as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Accordingly, the Senate refers this prayer as amended to the joint committees on banking, insurance and other financial institutions, capital markets, anti-corruption and financial crimes, ICT and cyber security, to undertake extensive investigation, extensive education of the Nigerian public, and refer to this August Assembly in 4 weeks.
In addition, the Nigerian Senate has removed Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan as chairman of the Diaspora and NGOs Committee, replacing her with Senator Aniakan Bassi. Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio announced the change during Thursday's plenary. The move comes 5 months after Akpoti-Uduaghan was reassigned to the committee following her removal as chairman of the Local Content Committee.
I think the new chairman of the Senate Committee on Diaspora and NGOs is distinguished Senator Aniakan Bassi, and it will take effect from today. So we will make some changes to our vice chairmanship positions next week as a result of the fact that some of the senators have two vice chairmanship positions. In fact, I know of one who has 3. Maybe his name kept coming up while others do not have. So, leader of the Senate, please assess to make sure everybody is carried along. Every senator should either be a chairman or a vice chairman so that we balance the situation.
And now we move over to the lower chamber. The federal government has expressed concern over malnutrition affecting 40% of Nigerian children under 5. At the National Summit on Nutrition and Food Security, Vice President Kashim Shettima, represented by Senator Ibrahim Hadejia, highlighted the Nutrition 774 initiative to address the crisis. House Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, represented by Honorable Julius Ihomvere, revealed malnutrition cost Nigeria $56 billion annually. Stakeholders urge improved security in food-producing regions and collaboration across all government levels for sustainable solutions.
Malnutrition stands out as a human tragedy and a development challenge. Millions of our brothers and sisters, especially children and women, suffer the consequences of poor nutrition. This summit must therefore galvanize us to forge sustainable, evidence-based solutions that alleviate their suffering and secure a healthier future for all. We have deliberately devoted this segment of the Open Week to the critical challenges of nutrition and food security. This focus reflects the House of Representatives' determination to work alongside the executive in confronting one of the most pressing threats to our collective well-being. Established in November 2023, the Committee on Nutrition and Food Security responded to escalating concerns about hunger, malnutrition, and inadequate access to healthy food.
Yes, the statistics are grim, but with every challenge, there is always a solution. And this is one that this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has decided to take heads on. The NCN, National Council on Nutrition, chaired by His Excellency the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has recently endorsed and launched its flagship program, which is called the Nutrition 774 Initiative. It's actually a framework looking to pull together all key actors to strengthen multi-sectoral coordination, to improve financing and accountability to be able to tackle malnutrition in the country. There's been a lot of work that's been happening over the years, but what this initiative does as a framework is to bring all key stakeholders and key actors to be able to work together rather than working in silos, because to tackle any challenge, there needs to be a unified voice, there needs to be a unified approach, there needs to be one plan that everybody aligns to, and this is what the framework is about. It's called the N774.
What the government needs to focus on is to provide security in the farmlands. Very simple. The major challenge that we have, what is making food look scarce, is because the farmers in the far northeast, northwest, and north central are not safe in the farmlands. The herders' crisis, where they don't kill the farmers, they destroy crops and farm inputs. So the first thing government needs to do, and of course I know that efforts are also being put in place, is to make sure that Nigeria is safe, particularly including but not limited to where we know that the food that we eat in this country are produced. Northeast, northwest, north central, and southeast also is not excluded. I saw some clips of videos where cows entered into farmlands in Enugu State and Anambra State, eating up people's crops and all that. So the immediate thing the government needs to do right now, which is the responsibility of the federal government, is to make sure that Nigeria is safer than we were yesterday.
And that's where we wrap up today's episode of the program, NAS Unplugged. Thank you for watching and good nights. I am Ada Oka.